Carmel is like a musical composition, an opus written 800 years ago, which has been played by countless persons over the course of 8 centuries.
Sometimes played in large orchestras, more often in small ensembles. The Carmelite rule has always been played by people in their everyday lives.
Every musical masterpiece is dead if it remains only notes on paper. It cries out to be picked up, interpreted, to be played by people who translate it not only to their world, but through their own personalities.
The ones who have lived this text have given voice to the rule in their own instruments, in their own circumstances, in their own lives. That is the Rule of Carmel. Words on a page, but also much more than that.
A way of life, lived in varied times, in varied ways, and with varied tempos and emphases.
What we celebrate today is both the written word and those who have enfleshed the Word of God it contains.
Interpreted it, played it with their lives across 800 years and into today.
The Rule of Carmel is a simple document, little more than 1,500 words, written by St. Albert of Jerusalem at the beginning of the 13th century.
It was a time of crusaders and pilgrims, of violence and valor, a time of wars, both external and internal. In many ways, it was a time not unlike our own, calling for great holiness in times of difficulty.
In those years, pilgrims came to the Holy Land, attracted by the perfume of the holy and venerable places, to place themselves in physical touch with the human realities of the life of Jesus.
At the northern tip of the Holy Land, in the shadow of Mount Carmel, there gathered a collection of such pilgrims, hardly a group at all, who settled as hermits in the caves and crevices of a wadi, a shallow canyon, near the spring of the prophet Elijah, who had once lived there and prayed there.
In time, these lay hermits developed a manner of life that focused on prayer and penance, each one holding fast to the pilgrim's vow to live in allegiance to Jesus Christ, to follow in his footsteps.
Around the year 1208, they sent some of their own to Albert Avogadro, the new Patriarch of Jerusalem, asking Albert to draw up for them a formula vitae, a formula of life, which was both descriptive of the way they already lived and proscriptive, bonding them more closely to the larger church by an approved common life.
It was this document, addressed to
B and the other hermits under obedience to him,
which eventually became the Rule of Carmel.
From the beginning, the hermits of Mount Carmel felt themselves to be brothers, both among themselves and with all other Christians.
everyone, whatever his station or the kind of religious observance he had chosen, should live a life of allegiance to Jesus Christ.
There was no community status, no social hierarchy, which separated them from each other.
They were the first for whom the Rule of Carmel is a song that continues to be sung in many styles by very down-to-earth, ordinary people,
whose call and charism is to live prayerfully in allegiance to Jesus Christ, in whatever circumstances God has placed them.
This flexibility is not some modern innovation on the rule. It was written into it by St. Albert and Pope Innocent IV, who modified the text to make it more flexible in 1247.
And has been lived out and sometimes tested by Carmelites throughout history.
An oratory should be constructed in the midst of the cells as conveniently as possible, where you are to gather each day in the morning to hear Mass, where this can be done conveniently.
This oratory, or chapel, was dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Lady of the place.
And the ones who lived there became known as the Brothers of Our Lady of Mount Carmel.
With the closing of the Crusader era and the newly won Saracen dominion of the Holy Land, the community in the Wadi was gradually transplanted west into an increasingly urbanized Europe.
There, the song of the solitary hermit was sung alongside that of those who now live this song, their lives in common.
And the music of the desert reverberated on the walls of the cities and towns throughout Europe.
You must have something to work at so that the devil may always find you occupied. No idleness of yours should allow him to find any entrance into your hearts.
In earlier centuries and still today, the Song of Carmel is sung in cities, in hermitages, and on farms.
It can be heard in cloisters and in high schools, in parishes, retreat centers, and college campuses. The Song of Carmel is played in pulpits and priories, in public and in private, in stadiums and in solitude.
Let each one remain in his cell or near it, meditating day and night on the law of the Lord, and keeping vigil in prayer, unless occupied with other lawful duties.
It is sung in meditation, in counsel, in teaching, in research, and in mission. It is a song of contemplation and confrontation, of spirituality and service. A song both of fasting and of festivity.
Whoever wishes to be leader among you must minister to the others, and whoever wishes to be first among you will serve the others.
The singers are old and young,
Big and small,
African, Asian,
European, American,
Mediterranean, Caribbean, and Pacific.
Their voices are strong and soft. Soprano, alto, tenor, and bass.
In choir, in cloister, in communion with God's people.
The genius of Albert's rule, of Albert's way, lies not in the comprehensive delineation of all that must be followed,
but in the holistic embrace of all that is human.
Common sense, the true discernment of God's will, is the guide of the virtues, the staff upon which the notes are written.
And prayer, the rhythm which sustains the chorus.
800 years ago, the pilgrim hermits of Mount Carmel received from St. Albert a score, a musical opus, which gave substance to their way of life and to their future. Those words on a piece of parchment, that song,
has been reinterpreted, reimagined, and relived in every century, through every culture, and in every community.
that song has been sung by every voice in every age,
propagating across 800 years and every continent.
echoing to us and through us. The call of St. Albert to live prayerfully in allegiance to Jesus Christ. Yesterday,
today,
today, and tomorrow.